Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Mojobreak's Hobby Stars of the Week. Cody Pasby with you, and this week we're talking about 4 stars, 2 from the world of baseball and 2 from the world of basketball. Basketball into its final 4 teams, young stars making a name for themselves in the world of baseball. Let's get right to it. First up, you've probably heard a little bit about this guy, Wander Franco, Tampa Bay Rays super prospect. Came up and had a storybook debut. The 3-run home run that tied the game against the Red Sox. They ended up losing the game, but still a memorable debut for a guy who could become one of the faces of the game of baseball. Wander's been doing it since he was 17 years old in the minor leagues and international ball. His career numbers in both the minors and international league play: a .328 batting average, a .925 OPS. He might have been in the major leagues last season, if not for the shortened year. He skipped AA entirely, went straight to AAA, performed tremendously well. It was only a matter of time until the Tampa Bay Rays called him up. They made a trade to get Willy Adames out of town and into Milwaukee, a former highly touted prospect. That's how good this guy is. He could be the best player in the game of baseball. He's got that type of skill set right now. If you don't believe me, look at the scouting report. His hitting skill grades 80, which is the best you can get on the scouting grading scale according to MLB Pipeline. His power is right up there as well. This guy's got 5-tool star written all over him. The only thing that could hold him back is where he plays. He's playing in Tampa Bay. There has not been a lot of huge big-name prospects that have come out of Tampa Bay that have done well in the hobby. Evan Longoria comes to mind. B.J. Upton, another guy that was a big-time star coming up through the minor leagues. Delman Young, another guy. But Tampa Bay just isn't a place where superstars stay. But we have seen over the past few years that doesn't really matter where a lot of these superstar baseball players play. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in Atlanta. That ain't New York or L.A. You've got Luis Robert in Chicago. Yeah, it's Chicago, but the White Sox are definitely the second team there. No offense to Pale Hose fans. And Fernando Tatis Jr. is becoming a superstar both on the field and in the hobby in San Diego. Definitely not a place that has been friendly for the hobby for many, many years. Who's to say that Wander Franco in Tampa Bay can't also become a huge superstar in the hobby as well, if he performs at the level he's capable of, like a 5-star athlete, a 30-30 threat? There's really no telling where this guy will end up in the baseball card world. Could be among the top 5, top 3, maybe even the number 1 guy for baseball collectors to hang on to. It's very tempting to sell right now if you've got some Wander cards in your collection, and I really wouldn't blame you after such a great debut. But if you do maybe have a couple of extra ones, or you're debating it, maybe hold on for just a little bit longer. If things start to fall off a little bit, there's still going to be plenty of people who are going to believe in his future talent. But this guy does have so much potential to become a face of baseball very, very soon. Over to hoops now, and let's talk about the 2021 NBA draft. Specifically, let's talk about Jalen Green. He's not going to be the number 1 pick. That belongs to Cade Cunningham, a guy who, by all accounts, could be a generational star, an instant plug-and-play guy who can make a difference to your team. Detroit Pistons fans are about to be very, very happy. But the 2021 NBA draft has a stellar group of prospects all in all. The top 2 spots pretty much locked in. The aforementioned Cunningham and Evan Mobley out of USC, probably going to number 2 for the Houston Rockets to make up for that oopsie by trading Clint Capella this offseason. But then it gets interesting after that. Jalen Suggs out of Gonzaga, probably going within that top 4. And Jalen Green, the G League star who played for the G League Ignite instead of going to college. He is one of the most interesting, if not the most intriguing prospect in this NBA draft class. Green was one of the most highly sought-after recruits going into college. He was the number 1 player out of high school. He averaged 31.5 points per game and 7.5 rebounds per game in his senior year, but he decided to forego college and played 15 games with the G League Ignite, averaging 17.9 points per game. Pretty good showing for a teenager, and he scored 30 points in their playoff loss to the Raptors 905 team. When it comes to scoring ability in this draft, I'm not sure any player has as much of it as Jalen Green does. He could be going at number 3 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I think a more interesting fit is going in that 4th spot to the Toronto Raptors, a team that kind of has that feel of like the Warriors a year ago, where they pick high after a weird year. They weren't playing in Toronto, had some injuries. They're a better team than the top 4 pick in the NBA draft. Pair him up with Fred VanVleet in the backcourt, that could be an extremely deadly combination. Jalen Green is one of the few guys you can actually get in the hobby right now. He was in Goodwin Champs just a year ago. So this is a guy that if you're looking to score on him early, if you've got some of those Jalen Green cards maybe in your Goodwin Champs collection over the last year, now is a good time to flip those before you start getting more Jalen Green products out there. We've already seen with LaMelo that not going to college is not a death sentence for American-born players. You can forego it and have a successful NBA start to your career. Jalen Green could be the next guy. He's going to be a very high pick in this draft. I think Toronto is a really interesting destination to him, but people tend to also thrive in Cleveland as well. Let's go back to the diamond and let's talk Austin Martin, Toronto Blue Jays prospect. Why are we talking about him? Well, Bowman Sapphire released this week, and if you were one of the very, very, very lucky people to get your hands on this, obviously Martin is still a big chase in this product, along with guys like Yoelqui Cespedes and Blaze Jordan. But when Bowman was released, Martin was really the poster boy. He was the guy, he was the player that they were really pushing as the hit out of this product. And he didn't really live up to expectations very early on in the season. But luckily for collectors and for Blue Jays fans, things are starting to turn a little bit. Martin got off to a pretty wretched start to the season, batting just .235 with a .688 OPS. But over his last 23 games, he's batting over .300 with an over .400 on-base percentage. And the college numbers at Vanderbilt speak for themselves. Absolutely stellar numbers across the board. 14 home runs and 43 stolen bases in just about 2+ years of action with Vandy. Now, the home run total is a little concerning. He has just 2 home runs through the season so far, but a couple things to keep in mind. One, the home run numbers were never that spectacular at Vanderbilt. This is a guy who is kind of your classic middle infielder mold, and you think the power will come with time. Also, he's starting his minor league career in Double-A, which, by all accounts, is the toughest test for any major prospect trying to make it to the big leagues. Imagine starting your entire career with the toughest test possible. He got off to a rough start, but now he's passing that test. If he can continue to develop his skills, he could be up in the major leagues very, very shortly. It's going to be a little tough to crack into that infield in Toronto. There's a lot of great talent there, a lot of great young talent, especially at shortstop, but they're using him in the outfield. He might get some play at third base as well. This is a guy who is going to find a spot if he keeps hitting, and right now, he's hitting. Let's wrap things up with Deandre Ayton, Phoenix Suns center, who had maybe the biggest moment of the NBA playoffs so far. The game-winning alley-oop, the shocking victory for the Suns in a wild Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Deandre Ayton, the guy who put it down and really had a huge game. It was kind of the guy who should have had the big game-winning shot, as he had a fantastic performance against the Clippers in Game 2. And Ayton is having a great performance this playoffs as well. It's easy to forget just how young he is, too. He's just 22 years old, the number 1 pick from the 2017 NBA draft. A lot of big names obviously picked in that draft. Luka, Trae Young. But Deandre Ayton was the number 1 guy for the Suns. Right now, the Suns seemingly having the last laugh. And I don't know if Deandre Ayton is ever going to become the absolute best center in the NBA. Is he going to become Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid? Almost certainly not. But I do want to make just a bigger point about big men in the hobby. They kind of get devalued. They are in that same category as pitchers in baseball or anything other than a quarterback in football. These are guys who are becoming different types of players. They're a different breed now in the NBA. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic were 1-2 in the MVP race this year, and they don't feel like centers in the traditional mold. Ayton most certainly is. But I think there is still a lot of value here for a guy who is just 22 years old. If you're looking for a value buy right now, and with cards dipping right now, the value has never been better. Deandre Ayton at just 22 years old is an interesting buy. And I think most of these centers, too, that have been mentioned, even Jokic and Embiid, think it's time to reconsider the big men in the hobby. There's value here. There's guys who could be on championship teams for years to come. The Suns look primed not only for a deep run here, but for a long run for the next few years with Booker and Ayton right in the middle of it. I know Devin Booker is the guy to collect if you're a Suns fan or if you're looking to capitalize on this Phoenix Sun playoff run. But if he's a little out of your budget, I think Deandre Ayton is a pretty good consolation prize with a lot of room to grow. And while you're at it, might as well check in on some other centers as well. Let's give some love to the big boys. That will do it for this week. Of course, make sure to stop by every Friday for a new edition of Hobby Stars of the Week and every Wednesday for our flagship podcast, The Hype. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Mojobreak Media for that and much, much more. We'll see you guys soon.